Hello, Gumroad people. It has been months since I last put out a video. I really apologize. I promise at some points, I will have more time to do fun stuff after December or January. But for right now, I am literally drowning in liquid shit constantly, and it never gets easier. I was waiting for a time where I maybe had a little bit more time to spare. However, that never came about, and it doesn't seem to be getting any better. So I'm just going to have to make time for the Gumroad people and find some fun stuff to talk about so I can do a video. This has been a topic that I have wanted to do a little thing on for a while. Just now got around to it, so I'm trying to think of the intro. How do I want to explain this? Okay, I gotcha. I know how I want to set this up. So a while ago, during the Trump election, there was a lot of discussion about how guns were killing children, right? That was a big thing. Everyone wanted to ban assault weapons, which are basically any gun that looks particularly scary or frightening to people. And there was a lot of discussion about how school shootings were up and how kids were dying. And a lot of the things that people would say in defense of weapons are that vehicles kill more people per year and more young people per year than firearms. And this was considered like a gotcha because obviously you're not going to propose that you ban cars, right? Well, well. The year is 2023. There is a website called Reddit. And when there are people enjoying things that make their lives easier, better, more free, more open, there is a community on Reddit devoted to destroying it and making people as miserable as possible. Enter FkCars. Our FkCars is an anti-urbanist community, and here's my little graph explaining how drug overdoses, actually motor vehicle deaths have gone down, I think, because of like what they call like the automatic braking system. There's a special name for it, but it's like how I didn't even know this until I rented a car recently because I haven't driven in so long. I've been living the new urbanist lifestyle, by the way, for quite a while. I have not had a vehicle of my own for years. So I have quite a bit of experience to pull on in regards to the European style of life, which I'll probably get into as I go through stuff. But as you can see, as vehicles have gotten safer, gun deaths have remained about the same because there's nothing that has really changed about firearms. But drug overdoses are way up, and it's really crazy. And I think that because this is so recent, the drug overdose deaths are so recent, I'm pretty sure they're fent. I'm aware that fentanyl is the hot new trend popularized by St. Floyd, and people are just dying left and right from that. So that's my understanding of how things are in the U.S. right now, but I could be wrong. Let's move on. This is the intro into this. Many more children die from road violence than gun violence. There's a very hostile narrative in the way that these Redditors love to portray the dynamic between the urbanist cyclist lifestyle, pedestrian lifestyle, and vehicles. And it is true. The statistics are out now. Actually, vehicles. No, guns are more dangerous than vehicles now for people under the age of 24. And that's actually recent. Like gun deaths are so high up. But vehicles have gotten safer. Again, because I think that the vehicles now brake when they detect a pedestrian in the way. And that's making vehicles much more safer for people. So I'll read this. Little Kitty 235 says rebranding traffic fatalities as road violence is the same nonsense as branding semi-automatic rifles into weapons of war. Comparing the nature of automobile deaths to gun violence is absurd. The super far left blog isn't making a pro-gun argument. They're trying to leverage the hyped fear over guns and to increase restrictions on cars in cities. Don't give them more ad money. It's like when they call suicides and accidents gun violence, and then they talk about the term road violence. Yes, there's a lot of interesting language that they employ. The big one is carbrain. Everyone is a carbrain. Carbrain is like their word for people who have a mentality that vehicles are necessary. They have a mentality that vehicles are not necessary and that we can exist in a world where people are 100% locomotive around by bicycles their own legs, and public transit, so buses and trains. And if we took the steps right now, it would be 100% possible to completely and totally eliminate all personal vehicles in the United States. And if you disagree with that, you're car brain, because you're thinking with cars when you should be thinking with public transit. Now, what kind of people are not car brain? Well, here we have a great example. In our FkCars by Potzak, titled "People Keep Convincing Me to Drive Despite My Disability." Well, nobody should drive if they are physically incapable of driving. So let's see what these car brainers are telling Potzak. He says, "Hi all. I just had a very frustrating conversation for about the 100th time, and I need to vent. So I am autistic. Oh no. Now I know that plenty of people on the spectrum can drive, but my flavor of autism makes it extremely unsafe for me to get a license. 1. I close and cover my eyes when I am scared. I do it all the time as a passenger in the car, and I doubt I would stop when driving. It's an instinct. I get easily overwhelmed and lose all focus and concentration. Again, this keeps happening to me even when I am just the passenger in the car. I have a horrible lack of sense and direction. I am able to get lost on a straight road. I cannot read my map to save my life, and I keep confusing left and right. I do not want to drive, as knowing all this makes me very nervous. I am afraid of being responsible for such a dangerous machine, and the thought makes me panic. And 5, I have bad eyesight and depth perception. Despite this, many of my family members and almost all my friends keep trying to convince me that I need a driver's license and that I will just figure it out once I am driving. So I want to remind you, if you don't know, Christian Weston Chandler drives. He is behind the machine, the wheel of a vehicle, and he drives around Charlottesville and Ruckersville just fine. He even has a vanity license plate for like Sonichu for his car. So the Sonichu mobile is out there being piloted by Christian, and you Potzak of FkCars cannot trust himself behind the wheel of a motor vehicle. Not just them. There are other car brainers such as Jason Slaughter. Jason Slaughter is a very punchable man who is from the United States, but he currently lives in Netherlands, one of the most non-car countries in the world. If there is a equivalent to a weeaboo for the Dutch, this guy is it, because he really, really loves the Netherlands. He says it's so accessible to bikes and pedestrians, and everything that the Netherlands does is good, and everything that every other country does that's not what the Netherlands does is bad. He is extremely preachy, and even the FkCars people don't really like him. So this is him on his Mastodon instance, because of course Twitter is for evil Nazis. Only card-carrying members of the National Socialist Arbeiterpartei of Deutschland post on the terrible, terrible platform known as X, formerly known as Twitter. So he spun up his own thing at Not Just Bikes, and likes to publish his screeds about how people who drive SUVs are cunts. One of the things that he's been challenged for over the years is that he has a very preachy tone. And while Not Just Cars is more like an organization now that tries to get civic change, he just tends to like suck his own cock a lot. And people call him out on this. It's not a good look to suck your own cock. People find that kind of annoying. And it's not very persuasive to be an arrogant, smug asshole that nobody likes. However, Jason knows better and has told people that they should stop criticizing him, especially even on FkCars, which is pretty incredible, because he makes money doing it. He says, not after the last 2 videos, I've seen an increase in comments, especially on Reddit, rolls eye emojis, that my tone is driving people away, and that I'd be much more successful if I was nicer. Coincidentally, I've seen a huge bump in Patreon supporters this month. I've had an increase in the absolute number of Patreon supporters, but I've also had many people increase their contribution amount, even though I provide no benefits to anyone who does that. So, a pragmatic person would possibly understand that you want to appeal to as wide an audience as possible. You want to make videos that help somebody who finds your videos on accident understand what you're about, how your change is good, how it can be integrated sort of like as a thing, as like a progressive thing where people can still keep their cars still have their vehicles, but then also people in cities can walk about and get around without a vehicle, and how that should be okay. This guy doesn't believe that. The people who support vehicles and don't want to change things and don't want to spend money on pedestrian infrastructure or cyclist infrastructure, they're bad people. And he is more than happy to preach to his existing audience and drum up their fanaticism and keep them subscribing and giving him money than he is actually accomplishing anything. This guy has a anecdote, which I cannot verify, but which is pretty interesting. He says, I've spoken with Jason personally. He's an enormous douche. He flies off the handle the moment you even allude to any kind of relationship his personal wealth might have to his ideology. He has an extremely cushy 6-figure online job that allows him to live wherever he wants. I've seen him go off on a couple people for pointing out that his ideology of fuck fixing my own shitty country, that's everyone else's problem, I'm going to move to the Netherlands and preach about how living there makes me so much better than all you unhealthy losers, is entitled and privileged as fuck. If by his own admission his videos aren't for the purpose of fixing these places, then they're basically just bragging and schadenfreude. And this is also a fun note. This is neither here nor there, but all Dutch people I've spoken to really do not want Americans and Canadians moving to the Netherlands. They're the ones who had to work to make Amsterdam such a nice place to live, and yet a bunch of rich American liberals are flooding in because they fucked up their own country and gave up on fixing it. As much as Jason jerks himself off for being how much of a saint he is living in Amsterdam, the locals aren't fond of his breed of transplant at all. So there you go. He is less interested in like actually improving the US, and he's more interested in just having a walkable city, which doesn't even make sense because he flies around and travels so much that his carbon footprint, quote unquote, is probably enormous just from his jet fuel usage. There's a lot of memes that I've sprinkled throughout this. I have a couple different chapters and I'll explain them as I go along. But this basically sums up everybody who is posting on this Reddit. He says, dude, I just love the hustle and bustle of the big city. It's so dynamic. It makes me feel like I'm in one of my favorite TV shows. You should totally come on down to my studio apartment. It's got exposed red brick walls and everything. We can crack open a nice hoppy IPA or 3 and get crazy watching some cartoons on Adult Swim. And dude, we gotta go down to the barcade. Listen right here. It's a bar where us adults who do adulting can go drink, but it's also an arcade, like when we were kids, so we can play awesome video games without dumb kids bothering us. Speaking of which, Megan and I have finally decided to tie the knot. Literally, we're both getting sipped tomorrow at the hospital. That way we can save money to be spent on ourselves and our fur babies. I'm fucking jacked, man. I'm gonna slam this craft beer and pop open another one. Quality. Uh, why? Well, there's a lot of what they say that doesn't like conflate with what people want out of their lives. Why do they drive their cars? So they can commute. They have kids. That's why they need an SUV or a minivan or whatever. Why do they need a house? Why are single family homes a thing? Because they got 4 kids and they need space for it. You can't do that in a studio apartment with red brick law. They don't seem to understand that people actually want to develop their lives and not just live perpetually as a man-child in a studio apartment. But they don't care because they don't have the capacity for empathy to understand how other people's perspectives might be different from theirs. So this is an example. This guy, by the way, Kwawa, he is responsible for most of the posts I will be showing. He really hates the FkCars people, to my benefit. So this is Amsterdam. By the way, I've heard about Amsterdam. I've never been. But most Dutch people seem to agree that Amsterdam is a shithole and not like it's full of immigrants. It's got more crime and it's just uglier than the rest of the Netherlands. So I will believe them in that. Here we have a typical road or a typical suburb in the Amsterdam. And it really does not look too much different than the United States. Now, I can tell you, I have gone through continental Europe and I've not been to the Netherlands, unfortunately. However, I can tell you that this is actually pretty standard for. I think this is actually in Houston. Oh, London, Ontario. Yeah, this guy likes Houston and Texas, and those 3 cities in Texas. Those are like the big thing that they complain about a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of sites in Europe that look a lot like the United States. The main thing that Europe does not have that the United States does is massive highways connecting everything. And they usually do have the option of public transit, whereas in the United States, you really don't have the option to take public transit in some spots, which sucks. Because not everyone can drive. There are good arguments to having public transit. However, the main one is that people just don't take them. When they do build them, they just don't get used. So there is really this sense that like everything in Europe is better. And I don't know why this is. Like people really do look at Europe and they always like in the United States, they have a very rosy perspective of how everything is in Europe. And it's not too much better than the United States. And there's gives and takes, right? Like one of the things that I think is different is just the quality of food. I think that like in Europe people can cook, and as a result, unless what they're eating is better than what they can cook at home, they don't buy it. So there's a heavy emphasis on high quality groceries and a reduced emphasis on fast food and restaurant food. Um, so that's one difference. But as far as just like, yeah, everything is better because it's in Amsterdam is just a bullshit, fallacious argument. It doesn't stop some people from really thinking, what can we do to stop these problems and be more like Europe? And the answer is to depopulate rural spaces. Adam Kotsko says, in discussions of reducing car dependency, one often hears, what about people in remote rural areas? And my gut instinct is, people shouldn't be living there in the first place. The solution is to give them generous grants to relocate among other humans. But what if they like living in remote rural areas? Sorry, you can't always get what you want. A lot of people would like to live in dense, transit rich settings, but can't, either because they can't afford it or they simply don't exist where they are. And if this sounds harsh, don't worry, it will never happen because our government institutions are insanely biased in favor of rural areas. They'll be fine. I'm just a guy over here having an opinion. Isn't it mean to imply that rural people's lifestyles is bad and wrong? As someone who lives in Chicago, all I can say is Cry Me a River. So this guy, who literally looks like this meme, like this, it might actually be based off of him. It's like so close that I'm really tempted to say that this is actually that guy. Though I mean it's 2 years after the fact, so no, that's just what he looks like. That's sad. So he's chugging Soylent and craft IPA beers, and he's so detached from his food that he doesn't even understand that there needs to be rural areas, because if there's no rural areas, where does the food come from? Maybe he thinks that there will just be giant plantations and we can just send people on rail every day to the middle of nowhere to farm, like in Iowa. We can just completely depopulate Iowa, send everyone to an urban center in Illinois or something. And then every day they just take an hour-long train ride, high-speed rail to the middle of nowhere to be dispersed on their farm. It's a bit crazy, but yeah, like the when you live in a city and your only concern is, God, my walk to the grocer is so long, and my bikes are not accommodated for everywhere I go. When that's like your only concern, you're just like, yeah, you know what? All the rural people can go fuck themselves. This is a great meme as well. And agender, it's not directly related to FkCars, but something by the agender community. He says, I start crying when I'm taken out of densely populated areas. Greetings, I'm a 19-year-old agender human. I've lived in Manhattan my entire life. I really have no desire to leave. Since I was young, when I've been taken to rural or suburban areas, I've started crying. There's something about them that makes me really hate them. They feel so boring and lonely. Whenever I'm there, I get worried that I'm not going to be able to leave, or sad because I know they exist. Even now that I'm an adult, I just start crying or panicking when I'm there. So this person is so dysfunctional that when they contemplate a situation where they're not inundated by other people like a rat in a maze, they literally break down and start crying about it. And they feel like they have informed opinions about how other people should be able to live their lives and if they should be able to drive or not. I mentioned that people don't take public transit even when it exists, and they don't bicycle even when it exists. So one of the things that the FkCars people really believe in is called induced demand. They believe that even though Americans are morbidly obese, like half the country is morbidly obese, those morbidly obese people are just going to buy a $300 bicycle and start biking around when bike lanes are more abundant, and and car traffic is not as accommodated. If we make fewer lanes, fewer roads, less accessible cities to vehicles, people will just start biking out of necessity, and that's what they call induced demand. But here we have an example of induced demand. This person asks, there's one bike rack to 1,000 plus car parks. And you might notice something interesting about the bike rack. The bike rack is empty. There are no bicycles at the bike rack. So there's a reason every single car spot is filled, but the bike rack is completely empty. And by the way, this I've been to the Gold Coast in Australia. The Gold Coast is right on the border between Queensland and whatever the fuck is south of Queensland. No part of Australia matters except Queensland, in case you're wondering, and Tasmania. Tasmania is pretty. But the Gold Coast is right on the border, and it's kind of like Florida. It's a lot like Florida in terms of climate, and the beaches are very pretty, and it's a tourist hub, so it's kind of like Pensacola or something. So chances are the reason why there's not many cyclists in the Gold Coast is that people are driving up to the Gold Coast as tourists, and they don't live nearby, and they have no incentive to cycle because they're there as a tourist. Australia, by the way, is very cyclist friendly. When I lived in Brisbane, you could get anywhere on a bike, and every day when I went up to the Queensland Uni to get Subway and work in the library, which was open to the public, I saw legit like businessmen in suits wearing a helmet and driving down or pedaling down the road. So there's not like, and people in Australia are super fit. Like, I mean, when I say that, people laugh, but at least in Brisbane, around where I was, people were fit. There were cyclists everywhere. Businessmen were going to work on bicycles. So it wasn't like a big deal. They definitely have cyclists in Australia, and this guy's just fucking petulant and whining. This chapter I call Rejecting Solutions. Now, the demand for pedestrians and cyclists is not a new idea. So there have been some attempts at accommodating cyclists and pedestrians in cities. However, that is a car-brained approach to the problem. We're not talking about accommodating cyclists and pedestrian. We're talking about a top-down revolution against the rural man and the SUV driver and the car-brained imbeciles who teeter about in their murder machines, running over children, running over pets. So here are some examples of how our FkCars people are not simply placated by having accommodations. They need a total redistribution of the road. One of the things that they're a big proponent of is commercial districts that have 5/1s. 5/1s are a building type in the United States that are very common. And the reason why they're so common is that I think after 6 floors, there is certain requirements for the building. Like it's no longer just like an apartment building. It's now classed as like a different kind of building that has more regulations. It needs to have elevators, I think, is one. So there's basically just more requirements to make it more accessible. So when, of course, they add in these requirements to say after 6 stories you have to do XYZ and it's more expensive, contractors realize, oh, we'll just do 5 stories then. You know, they're called 5/1s, and they're a very, very common style of building. Their idea is that every place should be a 5/1. And by the way, the bottom floor is commercial, so it's like it's not industrial. It's just like storefronts and restaurants and shit, and everyone lives above them. You definitely know what they are if you've never heard the term. This meme, please, bro, please, just one more 5/1, mid-rise, mixed-use retail residential building. I swear this one will finally solve the housing crisis. If you give me a massive tax break, I promise I won't build a parking garage to promote cycling. We can have an artisan cupcake shop and an izakaya this time. Please, bro, please let me build another 5/1. And there's like 2 major 5/1 builders alliance in Greystar, so that's what they're poking fun at. This one is called is a video called Why Ancient Rome Had the Worst Traffic in History. I've watched through it. The summary is that in the city, even though there are no cars, the roads were basically covered in mud and cow shit constantly. There were 1 million people living in metropolitan Rome. And when events were happening, it was literally not uncommon for people to be crushed underfoot by mobs of people. So despite Rome having an extremely dangerous system, despite no vehicles, you would think maybe the car brains would learn, or the bike brains, sorry, not the car brains. Maybe the bike brains would learn that the issue is not necessarily the vehicle or the mode of transportation, but rather the claustrophobia of the living conditions. However, no, there were some comments. One in particular is this anime avatar down here. Traffic is awful. We must do something. Romans 2,000 years ago banned heavy vehicles, enforced time restrictions, guided them around instead of the center, impeded one-way streets. In Americans today, more highway lanes. That's a very common complaint. Basically, anytime the civic engineers decide to just expand the highway instead of trying to get people off their cars and into bicycles or onto trains or whatever the fuck. That's a dumb American thing. And of course, everything that America does is lay bad. Everything Europe does is lay base. Kind of missing the point that people were literally being stomped into horse shit and dying, despite the fact that there were no cars. But the takeaway is that with enough government regulation, anything is possible. Though the government has tried other things. In Chicago, they actually wanted, and this is in America, so they were actually thinking like, hey, you know, we have all these cars now. It would be nice to see different ways to accommodate pedestrians. And this is an example of a multi-tiered street in Chicago, which actually still holds multi-tiered streets. This is a breakdown of some of the roads where they have multiple tiers with pedestrians and multiple pathways and stuff. But this isn't good enough. This is car brain. Now you might think, wow, this is marvelous American engineering. Maybe we should do more things like that. No, you fool. Because you see, the problem here is that there are cars still. We need to get rid of the cars. For instance, in this situation, there is a pedestrian overwalk. So you have a very, very busy intersection here. And having pedestrians on the road merely increases the likelihood of people being hit in this busy intersection. This looks like it's in China, maybe Japan. Actually, I think China. So this should make people happy, right? No, of course not. RIP wheelchair users. I guess. No. Because those look like wheelchair ramps. No, I guess not. I guess they are just steps. I guess China does not give a fuck. Look, in China, they just throw people off the cliff when their legs don't work. Pedestrian bridges are car infrastructure. I know pedestrian bridges aren't really good and are just because of too many cars, but I can't help to like them. They seem fun. It's stupid, but when I walk across one, I want to walk across one so bad. I just like cities with lots of levels. I think it's cool how you're above the cars. It should only be added as decorative features and parts that allow people to have a view of something, not as a way of crossing the street. I have experienced one of these in real life. It was the opposite, though. I was in Moldova, in Chisinau, and there is a very busy intersection on the road. And instead of walking over it, you actually walk under it. And it was sort of like a maze of storefronts while you're down there. So there's like people selling iPhone accessories and all sorts of shit. And you're able to cross the street without having to actually cross the street because it's a very busy intersection. And there's no lights, and you just walk down a flight of stairs and you'll walk up, and there's commerce down there, which should be exactly what people want for this. But no, that's car brained. Don't be car brain, chat. Now, you may also argue that a vehicle has a purpose, a personal vehicle has a purpose, and therefore, in the right time and place, it may be a good idea to use a car. But no, that is car brained. Rackle says, my family is planning to move to another house this week. How do I convince them to use alternative methods instead of using a truck? Okay, I may be aware of how stupid this question sounds, as I'm not sure if anyone who else is against cars does this, but my dad is planning to rent a big diesel truck along with other movers in order to transfer all our belongings to another house just 20 minutes away. By car, by the way, so it's probably an hour by walking or whatever. Our old place is surrounded by a neighborhood full of parked cars and little greenery, along with cars passing by, making the place almost entirely unwalkable, despite having many walkable passages. But our new location almost has nothing of the usual traits of car-dependent towns, except seeing a few pickup trucks parked on the adjacent sidewalks. Although I'm a bit relieved about moving to a new place, I'm not completely satisfied with this decision, as we know trucks are the major cause of pollution and pose a more dangerous hazard on the road in general. Nearby, we have a local train station that is obviously more convenient for the environment, as well as a few buses. Blah blah blah. Point of the question is, um, I tried convincing my dad it would be more realistic to put all of our family's belongings via public transport, or if not, even hiring multiple movers to transfer our belongings to a new house via bikes. We don't have much belongings to get from the get go, as our house is relatively small. My dad has usually decided to stay closed minded of all of this and decided we should go for renting a truck as that is the most efficient way. He doesn't even care about the environment at all. And when I showed concerns of my family destroying the environment, no matter how hard I tried to explain the consequences of using cars and trucks, I don't think I even understand why my family is so car dependent anyway. So this sounds like a little kid. This sounds like a little 15-year-old. Like, oh my god, my dad's going to use a car to move our fucking dishwasher. I want him to strap the washing machine to my back, and I want to carry it down the road like I'm Jesus Christ, so I can feel really good about myself for being extremely inconvenienced by this. In case you're wondering, he might actually be a man child. It's really hard to tell. Someone pulled up his account. Here's some titles of things that he's posted. I just read The God Delusion by Richard Dawkins. So I guess he doesn't want to be like Jesus Christ because those things exist. In our atheism, my formerly atheist friend just said God bless after ending the conversation. Oh no, he said God bless. Like even people in our atheism are like, shut up. But he just got these bad boys. Oh my god, Funko Pops. I love Funko Pops. Look at all those Funko Pops he has. Man, he's going to have so much fun putting those Funko Pops in a box and carrying them on the fucking bus when he goes and moves. Here's how much of a spur this retard is. I am naturally good at vocabulary, although I did use to read the dictionary as a source of entertainment at age 8. Yeah, bro, everyone pulled out the fucking dictionary and looked up random words. That doesn't make you special. 105 IQ Redditor. Oh, and he's gay too. Atheist and proud. He, him, rainbow flag. Wonderful. Please, Dad, move my Funko Pops. Haul my Funko Pops on a bicycle for me. Singapore, however, you might think the city-state of Singapore might be one of the most or least car-brained. However, you would be wrong. Singapore tries to implement car light policy by restricting cyclists. Is trying to go car light, but since the beginning of the year, it's been illegal for more than 5 cyclists to cycle together on single lane roads and more than 10 plus on dual carriages, which is not ridiculous on its own, but is also against publicized government policy. There's various reasons why they do this, because it's dangerous, but these are the poor quality bike paths in the city state of Singapore. As you can see, extremely low quality, not walkable at all. This is basically a death trap. At any point, you may die. Conversely, a country that does public infrastructure very well, India. A troll or just a naive Indian decided to post this. What can be done to prevent public transit from being like this? Can't convince people to leave their cars if other options are like this. And here we have very famous pictures of public transport in, I think, China or India. I'm going to say that this is India. And the people did not react to this post well. Manavan Pathek says, stop spamming that cars are not the solution to this. I never said that they are. But to convince people to use trains, it has to be of reasonable quality, unlike what's in these images. That's what I meant. I didn't say cars are superior to this. Road traffic is also horrible in Mumbai. It's just that people who can afford cars prefer sitting in traffic for 2 hours in their AC cars instead of standing in such trains for 45 minutes for the same distance. The sub is very Western centric, and it seems to be a stupid hive mind just like the car brains, downvoting any argument that is presented. The situation is much more complex and add more lines, since that has been done in the past with little change, but these Reddit smarts are refusing to acknowledge that. I am genuinely asking how to improve public transit, and these motherfuckers are spamming the same cars aren't better. And this post in particular is what I want to read. The answer is still more trains. This is 1,000 points. So this is the correct answer according to Reddit. When you have this volume of people, the question is still how to move people in the most efficient and effective way possible, and the answer is still trains. Even if this line is at max capacity, then they need to make more lines or find more expand stations and line capacity. They could also look at increasing housing density near job sites to decrease commute distances as well. So the answer is more urban sprawl and I guess forcibly relocating people to make them closer to their jobs. And my issue with this is that even if the train runs every 5 minutes, few people are going to like skip a train that they're supposed to get on when they know another one's going to come. Like they want to get on their train. So I guess if like the train is literally physically over capacity, maybe they might, but more trains and more lines don't fix this problem. And more specifically with more lines, like if you have multiple trains going to the same destination, it doesn't work. You have to actually expand the station and make the train longer and find some way to even people out. But when you're on like really, really long trains, people are going to congregate near where, you know, the stairs are or where you get onto the platform. And that's not necessarily where the least dense carriages are. Those things don't stop for very long, so you're like running as soon as they do. All right, this chapter is called New Solutions. So not only are they rejecting existing solutions, but they have a couple ideas of their own. There's a big problem with public transit, which is Stone Toss, this fresh toss hints at. As he walks down the street into the suburbs, he notices that there are suddenly unwalkable suburbs. The joke here, obviously, being that the cities are dangerous to walk in, and it's not because of sidewalks, it's because of the people living in them. However, I do want to read some responses to this. Obviously, well, the title of this was Stone Toss is a car brain. Who would have thunk? The obvious cities are filled with dangerous and dirty parentheses black people part is pretty disturbing. The entire premise of suburbanization in the USA was based on white people trying to escape cities so they didn't have to live around non-whites. Of course, Stone Toss, etc. What's that saying about finding literal fascists in your movement? Urban people is code for black people. This is true. Suburbs do exist to get away from black people. This is not like a meme. The reason why people live in suburbs is to get away from the city because the city is full of gross weirdos who jerk off on the streets. We don't have mental health asylums. We don't have ways of dealing with poverty. So black people just like accost you. I still remember when I was like a little kid, I went to New York for the first time. And like this drugged up, mentally unwell guy looking in two different directions, like towering over me, twice my height, ran up to me and started asking for money. And it's like literally scary walking through the streets of cities in the United States because of people of a particular disposition. This is a great one. So if you could buy a road or street, which one would you buy and what would you do with it? And they are hailing the achievements of this family, these two people. This is Mary Moriarty Jones, a strong towns member from Honolulu who bought a road to make it safer. The issue is that they did not make it safer, and she kind of ruined it. David says Mary Jones has failed miserably at providing a reasonable solution to the problems on Leahi Avenue. She has done nothing to help the community and only made changes for her personal benefit. She now has the entire community against her. She makes it seem like it's only residents against her because of the parking removed. However, it also includes the elementary school principal, elementary school parents, police department, fire department, ocean safety, and basically all of the residents in that area. Everyone is against the poor choices that she has made. She has made the roads more unsafe now. She literally put parking in the middle of the road to try and slow down drivers. This might work on a quieter street, but it does not fit Leahi. There are now many near head-on collisions between cars and bicyclists, mopeds, and there will certainly be a crash soon. Hopefully nobody dies. She has done nothing to stop the speeding and made it more unsafe now that cars have less sight distance and do not see pedestrians on the sidewalk until much closer. She could have just installed speed tables and a stop sign to physically stop speeders. There was a simple solution, but she could not provide even that. Skipping ahead, she's a selfish moron who only thinks about herself. Somebody will get hurt soon from her poor attempt at traffic engineering. She needs to be removed. This podcast should not support someone like this because she manipulates the media to think she is doing only good. So she literally bought a street and then decided to make it so that her idea was that by making the road really, really hard to like look down, to obstruct vision as much as possible, that would of course force people to like drive more carefully on a busy road. And it didn't work that way. And now people fucking resent her for it. Go figure. This begs the question. If these anti-carbrain people were really in control of everything, what, perhaps, would our society look like? The answer, Jason from Not Just Bikes decides to design Pedestria, not to be confused with Pedestria, which is Epstein's Island. This one is about feet and walking around, and this is it. What does your 15-minute city look like? What does your suburbia free, rural free city look like? Here we go. Here we have the ideal home for all people of Pedestria. You can see that this expertly designed city features adequate public transit, which is the most you can just tell that they're like building public transit like, oh my god, I can put trains here and I can put trains here and I can put trains here. And they had like zero concern with like the actual layout of the homes, because what they've done is they thought, okay, well, what's the best way to build the trains? And the trains obviously would go in a circle because that would be the most efficient way to navigate to get around on a train. And then they start laying out the trains, and they're like, wait, how do we fill a circle with urban sprawl? I guess kind of like more circles. And this is what it looks like. So I don't know. Maybe he could take a civic engineering course and finalize this idea that he has out, so that we can all live in Pedestria together. Not to be confused with Equestria. This bike brain person ranting about how our public transit system does not include national parks. He says, I'm trying to plan a trip for an upcoming long weekend. Most of the national parks I look at are so inaccessible without a car. Arches National Park is a 4-hour drive from SLC. Yellowstone is multiple hours from major airports, and the regional airports have less service. Same applies at the Grand Teton. Yosemite is a few hours from SFO. Glacier is a train connection, but Chicago is 30 hours away. And so on and so forth. None of these parks' websites have an efficient suggestion for public transit. Looks like gatekeeping to me. We can't have good transit to these locations. I don't want an HSR to all these places, but at high-speed rail to all these places, but at least some form of public transit would be good. Those parks were created when the automobile was really gaining popularity. Most parks have shuttle service available. It's sad because of your car-centric infrastructure. These are lines of traffic waiting to get in and out of these parks, and many of these parks are converted into parking lots. Well, there you go, Teddy Roosevelt, you piece of shit carbrain motherfucker. You ruined our country. Why, no, Mom. I'm not a man-child into Cape shit. This is just how we have to design our cities. So you might think Pedestria was unappealing. However, the top soy boys working for Marvel have figured out how we can design our cities, and the answer is Wakanda. That's right. The engineers, doctors, scientists, and lawyers of Africa have pieced together a pedestrian city that would appeal to everybody. And here you go. This is our future, designed by the based black people. Why can't we have Wakandian transport? This is us. This is our society. We could live in this paradise, Chad, but we don't because we're so car-brained. We could have flying cars and shit. Yeah, I think that now that I think about it, I guess if they have flying cars, they don't really need street cars, right? So obviously, if the cars just fucking fly, then you can like walk around. You don't need streets anymore for road vehicles. You can just fly. That would kind of make sense, huh? Look, all these paradises that we could live in. If only we invented flying cars and found Wakandium, we would be fine. And finally, one fun thing is that they suggest we should, in the name of public safety, we should get rid of bike helmets. This guy went into detail, but I will sum this up for you. When Amsterdam was getting into the swing of their anti-carbrain movement, they had to discuss what people actually wanted to get out of using the bicycle to get around. And one of the things that people brought up was that bike helmets were unstylish, gay, and they didn't want to wear them. It was a pain in the ass. And they didn't want to get tickets for not wearing them. So Amsterdam never implemented a helmet rule for bicycles. And so their discussion is that we should get rid of bicycle helmet laws in order to promote the use of bicycling, even if it makes bicycling less safe. And to be absolutely clear, you should absolutely wear a helmet, because if you don't wear a helmet, you will fucking grind your skull into the pavement and die if you get hit by anything. But in the name of promoting cool cycling, maybe we should do away with it, at least temporarily. This segment is called Car Culture, and this is some FkCars takes on how American culture is centered around cars, how we worship cars. We have dates dedicated to cars. We have public holidays for cars. We have literally we have sports dedicated to cars. And in particular, this video made a lot of people on FkCars see, so I'll just play this. As you can imagine, this led to some accusations that carbrain folks are not only dumb, idiot, violent monsters that they are, but also misogynist and racist, which are some interesting facts you should consider, chat. Another, I guess this is sort of just a meme. A nice group of memes. I do have some critiques of car culture. I do notice that like American trucks are now like massive. There's a big criticism that the grills on trucks are like so high now that you can't see children unless they're like 5 feet tall. So now our trucks in the United States are designed. They're basically pit bulls on wheels, if you think about it. He looks at the truck and he says hideous as he sits in American public transit, which is absolute hell. And if you're wondering, in Europe, yes, it is much, much better to be on public transit. The wider the area, look, I want to like everybody, but when I'm on public transit, I'm traveling through some place very white, and I'm just sitting there, and everyone's quiet. Some people are on their phones, some people are on laptops, some people are just looking out the window, and you hear nothing but the chugga, 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 just the nice sounds of public transit. Very air conditioned, everything nice. And then it stops. The doors open, and then a guy gets onto the train, and he is not white. You're sitting there trying to enjoy your time, your peace and quiet, and he pulls out his phone, and it's got the fucking speaker on, and this is what you're hearing for the rest of your trip. Yes, it is as bad as it sounds, and I don't know what it is, but their kids suck too. They get on and they're in a fucking full burqa. You can't see anything about them. They have a carriage. They have like 4 little shits with them, and they're just screaming the entire time. And it's like the European families don't do that. It's awful. Which again is the central problem with why Americans don't want to take public transit. But you can't talk about that because that's it's racist. This is an example of them criticizing our car brain culture. Car brainwashing starts with the youngest age, at the youngest age with toys. Coincidence or not? There's a bicycle in one of the toy boxes. Try to find it. The ultimate, I hate bikes and public transport. I hate the speed limit. Climate change is fake. COVID is fake. Trump is God. I'm a V8 vehicle. I gotta say, that's a nice looking truck. I think my grandfather had a Ram. Maybe I'm partial for that reason, but that's a nice looking truck. What is this? Oh, and then they're spotting these rams in Europe, and they're freaking out. What is this monstrosity doing in a place like Barcelona? Ay Dios mío. Slash the tires. Can't key the paintwork. Let them know they won't be tolerated. Ooh, violence. I wonder if that'll be a segment. Listen, we gotta let these carbrainers know that their shit is not being put up with anymore. Hello.
Bike lane. There's a bike lane right here. You're parked in the middle of it. What's that?
Knock on my fucking car. Next time, you just pull up to the window and say something. Don't knock on my shit.
Why are you endangering people's lives with your
shit?
This machine kills 40,000 people.
On my fucking shit, bitch.
Why is misogyny called for in this situation?
Let me tell you something. Before you start fucking with somebody, you better ask yourself what the fuck they're going through.
So what about you?
This is why black people hate white people. You're trying to, you're sitting there, you're pulled over, you got some shit that you got to do. And this guy is like knocking on your car and being a dickhead for no fucking reason. This is what you would call caucasoid behavior. Only a caucasoid would do this shit. I empathize with this melanated man right here.
Fucking with bicycle traffic. This is a piece of infrastructure designed to save the lives of human beings.
Bitch,
when you block it...
Look, bitch, I'm getting ready to move my car, so you better leave me the fuck alone.
I really appreciate you not breaking the law. That's a basic expectation of living in a...
I'm moving my fucking car,
Good.
so leave me the fuck alone.
Get on it. Let's go.
This guy sees, listen, this right here, this looking, that is the look of a man about to pull out a knife and slit somebody's throat, but he knows he's on camera. He knows that he's in public. He knows that he can't get away with it, but it's being considered. The concept of taking this man by the neck and snapping his neck in his own hands is actually in this moment firing through his brain. He's thinking about it. He's like, I can kill this motherfucker right now. I can rip out his fucking eyeballs right now.
Are you experiencing some toxic masculinity right now, sir?
No, I'm not.
I don't know if I'd be able to resist it at this point. I'd fucking shoot him. I'd be going to jail. I was thinking that. I was like, nah, man. Nah, man. It ain't worth it. I could rape this man to death right here in the street. I could do it. But I'm not going to, man. I gotta get home. I got them kids. It ain't worth it. That cockazoid ain't worth it, man. Got my pit
Your dog's
bull.
very cute, sir.
That was the closest you ever saw to a nigga moment happening, and then being that the closeness of the comeuppance happening there cannot be understated. Though not everyone can be so lucky. In this instance, a Redditor points out that the car-brained Americans are deathly afraid of dense development. There's a tweet that says there's a not insignificant portion of the American public that believes that big cities are lawless war zones because they live in a right-wing media bubble that wants them to believe this. Now, why might they believe this? Perhaps because of the lawless war zones that exist in the United States cities. My brother-in-law is like this, a big manly man who lives in the sticks and talks big game about being self-sufficient, but would absolutely shit his pants if he needed to share a subway car with a diverse ensemble of real people. I can't wait until he comes and visits us in Philly so I can give him some exposure therapy. Yeah, we have these wonderful Portland Antifa zones. A dirtier Portland as possible, AJ McCreary. Yeah, you got people like that walking about. You got shit burning on the fucking streets. You got the no-go zones. You got the encampments in San Francisco. But this is all a meme. This is all a media bubble. These are just exclusive pictures. They're not indicative of the whole thing, chat. My bike got stolen recently. I was pretty bummed about it, but I think whoever stole it was probably more happy to get it than I am sad to lose it. The total happiness in the world increased. So whatever. This is the bike cuck. There are many cucks that ride bikes, and we will be talking about the horrors and troons of the subreddit. Couple pictures of this. The reason I want walkable, bikeable cities with good public transit. This is like half the reason I want walkable, bikeable cities with good public transit. Jackie S says, you don't miss dick, you miss walkable cities, third places, e-bikes, and well-funded public transit. Aster Olson says, these are all methods for getting dick. And in case you're wondering, Aster is a troon. Your comment caused me to go down a rabbit hole. I googled Aster Olson and found her Twitter where she links to her personal webpage. Oh, okay, she's actually a woman. Then on her webpage, she's talking about being a transsexual. So she seems she is genetically a man, but has completed the transition to womanhood. Tangentially related, she seems to be an accomplished scientist as well. I love this person's like so naive. Thanks for sharing her blog. Also, FYI, it's considered not cool and enabling of cis hetero patriarchy's violence to joke about any trans woman actually being a man. So please don't do that anymore. Here's also a nice troon meme on the FkCars subreddit. Cars are fucking dumb. Replace them with blaha. Or blahe. I don't know what that is. It's a shark. 50 cars, 50 people in 33 cars, 50 people on a bus, 50 pedestrians, and 50,000 blahe. Putting the trans in transport. Common trans W. TIL. I learned what a blahe is and what it means to the trans community. Neat. Could you explain? At World Pride in Sydney, there was a very cool shark outside the Australian Museum to promote their shark exhibition. Everything in the CBD was painted in rainbows, including the Progress Shark. The Progress Shark was appealing enough to become an unofficial mascot of World Pride where trans concerns were front and center due to current attempts at repression. So there you go. Instead of having vehicles that can go wherever you want them to go, you can instead fill your streets with faggot sharks. Good luck with that. Finally, it's so fucking insane that it's illegal to do this. It's illegal in the U.S. to cross streets, which he's referring to as jaywalking. Only black people do that. I can't even begin to wrap my head around that. My dumb European arse wandered out into the cross the street while drinking a beer in Florida and learned that the hard way. How was I know it's perfectly normal behavior in the rest of the world and was apparently worse than mass murder over there? Rolling eyes emoji. I also didn't know you couldn't take all your top off on the beach. Landed the free my hole. So this troon and or real woman goes to Florida, gets drunk, meanders through the highway, gets honked at, and maybe also pulled over by a cop, and then chimps out because she can't show her titties on the beach where kids are playing in the sand. Oh, what a hellhole America is. Now, we got some good old-fashioned seethe. Here is a bike cell attempting to ride down the road. It's not going so well. Sometimes we all hit potholes in life, my friend. We're about to see a trolley get culturally enriched. So why can't we have public transit in the United States? Oh, I wonder why. Here is another. Oh, this probably could have gone in the car culture area. But here we have a video from Volkswagen trying to sell their new automatic braking system. They put out a video that the bike brains over on FkCars did not like at all.
Seriously? Cars built with safety in mind. Even for those guys. The Volkswagen Atlas with standard front assist.
That's front assist. That's the name of the braking thing I was talking about. The car industry is back at it again. I want to see real-world example that shows the car stopping in a crosswalk where the pedestrians have the right of way and the driver is distracted on the phone. Seriously, a person walking and looking at their phone may be a nuisance. I agree with that much. A person driving and looking at their phone is a life-threatening danger to everyone and everything around them. These things are as comparable as jaywalking is to murder. These car brains. This video actually got deleted off the Volkswagen YouTube. Because I guess good on this guy to archive it, because Jesus, I guess the bike brains responding to this were so vitriolic that they felt they had to retract it. Who knows that you can't offend the pedestrians? By the way, I really love this. Let's remind ourselves who started Volkswagen. Begins with an N. Oh no, that's right, chat. It was Adolf Hitler, the blackest man to ever live. And unfortunately, the bike brain people seem to be huge racists, and they hate this poor man and call him terrifying, deprecating slurs. Just shameful. Here's another example of a FkCars person having a melty. This is kind of like the black guy on the bike lane thing. However, this one is an ambulance. I cannot believe an ambulance would take up the bike lane, chat.
I am losing my goddamn mind. Here's an ambulance in the bike lane. There is a business they could park in. They could block the car lane. They could block the non-existent motorcycles park lane. I just passed a van that was in the bike lane and two other cars and an Amazon Prime in the bike lane. And I am not even half a mile away from home on a rainy day. What the fuck? What the fuck? Get out of the bike lane. Pull in there. Pull in the motorcycle parking. You're killing us. Get out of the bike lane. You're on break or what? Get out. Unbelievable. Well, it's not like there are any bikes except for me. Go ahead. $1499195. Unbelievable. They're killing us. They're killing us.
So if you don't know, she misinterprets every single thing that this crazy lady says. The San Francisco Fire Department responded to this and said, "Thank you for sharing this. The crews did not say they were on break. They were finishing a medical emergency with a patient care document from a call at the location, which is why they moved to the other side of the street rather than engage with you. Have a safe day." Yeah, so he didn't pull into the parking lot and he just moved across the street because he wanted to get out of the bike lane, but they're actually inside that building taking care of an emergency with someone's health. And she's screaming at them, "You're killing us." So as someone is being treated by the ambulance crew, the EMS team, she is demanding that this guy fuck off. Bike brain people chat. I can't believe it. However, that's not all the ruckus that these evil emergency vehicles, if they can be called that, do. Friendly reminder from Hao Sen that emergency sirens are loud enough to permanently damage hearing, and they're only that loud because cars are both A, in the way, and B, soundproof. In other words, we're perfectly okay literally deafening people so that cars face the least inconvenience. There's of course, a circle jerk subreddit dedicated to making fun of this called FkCars Circle Jerk. This is a circle jerk post. This kind of car should be banned. They're ugly as fuck, loud, goes incredibly fast, and doesn't stop at red lights, and a ton of people die inside them every day. Well, that may be because you had to carry somebody across the street to get to the ambulance in San Francisco. How can a country be so good at building train tracks and so bad at planning roads simultaneously? Are FkCars users going to Japan expecting a public transport utopia, but also finding an entire city made of stroads, which is one of their weird words? I lived with a host family in Tokyo for a while. One day, I made the mistake of going for a walk in the neighborhood and learned just how dreary Japanese suburbs can be once you leave the immediate vicinity of a train station. Just endless tracks of beige, single-family homes with no gardens, barely any public space, and ugly stroads with occasional gas stations and car dealerships cutting through the landscape. Don't get me wrong, most of the back streets were walkable. I did pass a 7-Eleven once, and I just walked the entire aforementioned station area. There would have been things to do. So it wasn't hopeless, just really, really dull. Even Japan, chat. Even Japan is bad. Only the based Amsterdam community is safe from criticism. Now, there's one thing that you know when you're a teenage boy, and that's that you got to get a job so that you can get a car, so that you can get a girlfriend, because getting a car is the first step towards getting a girlfriend. So what do bike brain people do when it comes to love in the big walkable city? Nothing, apparently. Discrimination in dating hookups and or dating in hookup apps due to not having a car. I'm gay, so I'm gay, so I'm not sure if this occurs in straight hookups apps, but apps like Grindr, it's very common for people to write things like, must have your own car. I have a job and a car, and you must have one too. I have my own place, car, and money. It makes me feel like people assume that if you don't drive, you're a bum and a leech. Yet I know many guys with cars who are huge users. It personally doesn't bother me much. I don't drive because I don't like driving. I'm a massage therapist and I work at a chain. I had plenty of clients coming in with neck pain due to the stress of driving in Houston. I used to joke and tell people that I owed my career to 59, 610, and I-10, which are the big roads connecting the 3 big cities in Texas. There you go. Nobody even wants to... Oh, there's more, by the way. I hear you. I remember a while ago, I have even seen some, there are 10 but type of little short videos and they don't have a car. It was pretty universally one of the most significant downgrades for people, regardless of sexuality. That together, along with this widespread notion of fast car equals sexy, sometimes really makes me feel like the kind of alien is just so foreign to me. So, surprise, cars are a sign of independence and women who want independent guys. Go figure. This is courtesy of Andy No. Here's a Portland urbanist mad that the police won't arrest someone for parking in a bus lane. I'm going to have to download these probably because I think that they are... Oh, no, I can just go to the source. Sorry, it was working on Brave. It doesn't work on Firefox. That means the file type is wrong.
It is not our place to agree or disagree with certain...
Very loud. All those evil cars making noise.
Enforce the laws.
But you're not, I don't know if you're enforcing them. If you understand that they require a city event permit, and you've acknowledged that, and you can see him breaking.
You know what I hate more than cars? Elon Musk.
The law right here, but you're not acting. You're refusing to.
So, I don't know if you were here in 2020.
Yeah.
All of those protests were not sanctioned.
Does two wrongs make a right? That's the thing I'm trying to pick
But
at.
But if we're not going to enforce something at that point,
yeah.
You want us to enforce this.
It is not our...
So this guy's pulling up on his bike.
Look who it is, Randy.
Looks like he's circling around somebody's car.
Found him already.
Parking lot. Damn, it's a lot back. Let's look at his brakes.
Look who I already found. You just brandished a weapon, Randy.
He's inside
That's
his vehicle.
menacing right there. It's already on camera right here on this GoPro. Randy just pulled out his pistol.
person commits the crime of menacing if I were. Oh, he's trying to prove that this guy menaced him, but he's inside his car. In most states, I think you have stand your ground inside cars. I don't know. This guy's in Portland, probably not, but yeah, I don't think that's menacing when you're harassing somebody. One thing I've noticed more and more about the Not Just Bikes point out is the shape of truck hoods. I've gone over the hood of a Honda Odyssey minivan. It wasn't fun, but I walked away because I rolled over the slope shape and off the side. I look at the big, flat, intimidating front grills of modern trucks as I ride my bike around every day, and it's very terrifying. There's legislation around the shape of car hoods that can make such things illegal, but trucks are exempt because they're viewed as working vehicles at the time that the laws were written. Your personal truck is not a working vehicle. You think it's sexy and strong looking. I think it's terrorism. Stop making and buying these monstrosities. And then we have a nice little boomer meme. I think it's terrorism. Stop making and buying these monstrosities. No. And then there's a nice GMC. GMC is also nice, but I think that they're owned by like one of the pods companies. Oh, and actually, this also could have gone in the car culture. Figured y'all would like this. James O'Malley says, very disappointing to see how car-centric Barbie is. Low-density buildings make the city less walkable and irregular. Winding roads make running bus routes less efficient. This is probably a joke. At least I hope it is, because like, it's supposed to be whimsical. Barbie, first of all, Barbie has a car. She has her own car. I'm just going to say it. She's an independent woman. She can drive. Actually, this guy points it out for me. Barbie is a poster girl for car culture, a big part of how young girls are indoctrinated into car culture. She's been a car-centric for 60 years, since 1962. Hundreds of different models of Barbie toy cars have been sold over the years, including Corvette, Jeep, Porsche, 911, Mercedes, Ferrari, VW Beetle, and VW Bus. See The Drive, which observes that the one theme throughout the history of Barbie cars was that she always had her own car, because she's an independent woman. Motherfucker, that was a good thing on Reddit before. Now we get to the fun segment. Of course I value your life less than my property. You also value your life less than my property. The Redditors, of course, realize that the car brains don't care about them or their plights. However, that doesn't stop them, because they are simply going to make you stop driving. How are they going to do that? By puncturing your tires. Here we have a SUV in Germany. He has a little sticker saying, "Fuck you, Greta." I think he's saying freedom is free. Rest is like law or something. Law is gas, or freedom is gas. And he says, I don't know. This guy has put this sticker is a EU thing that shows like energy efficiency on like appliances and stuff. And this one is marked G for like least energy efficient. And he's showing that off like, go fuck yourself. Spotted in Germany, openly hateful driver of stupidly big car. Why are Europeans trying hard to be American? And then Swedneck, who is using I don't know why trannies in Europe are using the term y'all, but the Swedish tranny says, y'all convinced us that your country is actually successful and a nice place to live. It would be great if you could make it abundantly clear that is not the case. It's a reminder to love your children and treat them well, because if you don't, they might turn out like the owner of this car. And then he says, teach the children about the tire extinguishers movement. And this guy is explaining, linking to how to deflate an SUV tire. This is a British thing. This guy's encouraging, would be a shame if those tires got a hole in them from the snow. Scratch the ugly ass truck. Write Greta with your keys. Burn it. Off with his head. So they're very, very angry. Imagine the owner finds his tire slashed with a note nailed to one of them. Greta was here. Someone should pop the tires. Burn, baby, burn. Slash the tires. I'm not saying you should deflate their tires, but you should deflate their tires. Well, this Resh is gas is way worse. It's basically code for Nazis and the Holocaust. So someone says gas, and that means that it has to be like Zyklon B. Okay. Yeah, my car, I have a car. My car runs on Zyklon B. That's the only gas that it uses. Five Finger Disco says, there is currently mobilization in Germany for a tire deflating campaign. The idea seems to be that unscrewing the valve caps, add a small object into the cap and screwing the cap back on, triggering the valve with the small object within. They do the same thing in the UK, and then one in the Belgium as well. And then, of course, Not Just Bikes decides to debate this topic. Dick McTeachin says, if I can't drive my car because some self-righteous jackass deflated my tires, my only recourse is to call a tow truck, which uses even more gas per mile than my car does. However, Jason has an explanation for this. And if you find your SUV like this every single morning, how long will you keep it? Will you wait up for them with a weapon? This vandalism will escalate into violence as long as people continue to drive oversized, dangerous vehicles in our city. The answer is yes. If someone was deflating my tires every morning, I would fucking kill them. I would go to jail. Their brains would be splattered across the fucking sidewalk. However, Antifa is to blame. Love bikes, hate fascism. So not just punch a Nazi, but take your bike and throw it at Nazis, apparently. These stickers are very common in like shitty parts of Europe, in case you're wondering, Western Europe. Not the bike sticker in particular, but Antifa stickers. First time extinguishing an SUV's tire. This one in particular is parked on the shoulder of a bike lane. Don't be afraid to take action. So this guy did it. And FkCars, his username was No Cars USA. Guy says, cringe replies, don't read them. Assholes park in bike lanes with private car. Asshole has to walk back home. It's that simple. I was just wondering, what's with all the enlightened centrists crawling all over the place recently? This person said he has a spare. Look at the votes. Everyone is like supportive of this. Very depressing. Just saw a neighbor pumping up all 4 of his tires with this morning. What are your thoughts on this? Attention, your gas guzzler kills. We have deflated 1 or more of your tires. You'll be angry, but don't take it personally. It's not you, it's your car. We did this because driving around urban areas in your massive vehicle was a huge consequence for others. Car companies try to convince us we need massive cars, but SUVs and 4x4s are a disaster for our climate. SUVs are our second largest cause of the global rise in carbon dioxide emissions over the past decade, more than the entire aviation industry. So they hang these up and then puncture your tires, and then we don't shoot them, apparently. That's supposed to be how that works. My thought is good. I hope they keep it up and force people to stop driving killer status symbols. These tanks are literally killing us. The hate is true and it's earned. Everyone who has a tank like that in an urban environment is a bad person or stupid. However, this ventured out to... I want to say that this post I just read. That's a different post, but it's the same kind of thing. This is in a different subreddit, though. This is going to end horrible for them when they get caught by the wrong person. You mean the right person. 10 out of 10, 100%. Yep, I'm all for climate activism, but this ain't it. Go after the companies that are causing 100 times the greenhouse gases. I have my truck to do truck things. My daily commuter is an old beater 4-cylinder I don't care about. And when the weather is nice, I ride my motorcycle. If I catch anyone tampering with my vehicle, someone is catching an ass whooping. It might be me, but they're going to have to prove that. Tell them to try that shit in a small town, crying, laughing emoji. Do that in the wrong place and we'll definitely get deflated by a 12 gauge or 9mm. There's no better way to get someone against you than by pissing them off. Someone is getting held at gunpoint in my house for messing with my car. Self-righteous and entitled prick needs the shit stomped out of him to learn life's most valuable lesson. Mind your own fucking business. Very based. This made me laugh out loud. I hope you also enjoy it. The cyclist is immunized against all dangers. One may call him a scoundrel, parasite, swindler, profiteer. It all runs off him like water off a raincoat. But hit him with your car, and you will be astonished at how he recoils, how injured he is, how suddenly he shrinks back. I've been run over. Bravo. I literally cried after reading that. I bust out. Finally, towards the end, I have some information about how FkCars handled the Reddit protests regarding the APIs. They did lock the subreddit, and then afterwards they added a bunch of rules that were really stupid with the intent of getting people on the Reddit to migrate to Discord instead of continuing to support Reddit. However, people were not happy about this. The subreddit was down to like 11 posts per day before people started saying, can we drop the city nerd shit? Why are we still protesting? Why are we deliberately making this forum worse? Isn't the global fight against car dependency more important than whether a handful of stupid iPhone apps work or not? I rate this as someone who has written 15 fully fledged bots on this website using the API. It goes on to say that the protest is fucking stupid, but car deflating is not. And the mods relent. The voice is heard. We fucked up. Howdy FkCarians. Here's a little update on how things are going on Reddit and specifically the sub. As you may have noticed, Reddit is changing its API, blah, blah, blah. But while all this is true, it doesn't change the fact that we fucked up. We have communicated poorly and we've let the city nerd tactic go on for too long. That's why we've decided to end the city turn tactic immediately, and we'll be prioritizing normal operations of the sub over participating in the protest. And now we won't do any more API protest actions that are more annoying to our users than to the admins. So there you go. They decided that, yes, Reddit is lay bad, but you know what else is lay bad? Cars. And then finally, a little bit of hopium for everybody. Despite all of their protests, people still like to live away from the cities because the cities are full of shit and fire and people on fire and shit on fire and so on and so forth. Except for Asians who appear to be bug people and actually genuinely enjoy the suburb for some reason, or the city for some reason. People over 30 tend to want to move out of the city because guess why? It sucks there and you can't raise a family. However, white people are also more partial to the rural, while the black people are mostly partial to suburban. And actually, no, I'm wrong. Asians prefer suburbs more than cities, but Hispanics and Asians are tied for urban. I think that's just because of California, and most of the Hispanics and Asians are centralized in like Texas and California and shit. Also, more people left American cities for other U.S. communities than moved into them during 2020, continuing a pre-pandemic trend of cities losing people in suburbs and rural areas gaining people. And not only that, but there are some genuine criticisms of the FkCars movement. Brianna La Visionaire says, walkable cities is a dog whistle for fat phobia. And it's true. One of the things that those people really stress is that bicycles are good for your health. They're good for your heart. They're aerobic. So you're not only getting around, but you're actually burning some calories while doing that. And that is fat phobic. Thank you, Brianna, for putting that out for everybody. Meanwhile, not everyone in the FkCars is going to hate cars forever. Some of them grow up. Ass Toasting Fuckstick says, how I got over my hatred of SUVs. I used to hate SUVs with a burning passion. I couldn't imagine a use case for such a vehicle. I also had a very sedentary lifestyle at the time, only leaving the house to go to work most days. One day, my old sedan I drove to work broke down. Walking to work in August heat wasn't my idea of fun, and getting rides could only go so far. Both were doable, but ultimately I needed a new car. Eventually, I came across a used Dodge Nitro in good condition for an almost unbelievably good price, so I begrudgingly bought it. Driving it daily was nothing that exciting. One day I decided to go shooting, something I didn't do very much because my old car struggled to make it to the range out of the sticks. This SUV took my rifle, my range bag, and my target stand with room to spare and effortlessly made it there in the mud. A few months and several range trips later, I wanted to fly my FPV drones atop a hill. The road is rocky and on a steep grade, but I made it there fine. Once I got there, the open trunk was a great place to sit in the shade while flying. Recently, I took up fly fishing. Some of my favorite spots are several miles up a paved, this time, winding mountain road. I'm able to make it there and back and go down some less friendly dirt roads meant for ATVs to reach some more obscure spots. When I went to pack up and move to a different spot down the river, I'm able to throw my fully strung rod in the back and have the tip of it riding shotgun. Summed up, a vehicle I couldn't fathom owning 3 years ago is instrumental to my new lifestyle. So this guy, props to him, picked up shooting, picked up drone flying, picked up fishing, and realized, hey, this vehicle gives me the freedom to enjoy these sports as I want, when I want, wherever I want. And of course, the FkCars people responded by downvoting his post into oblivion and spamming it with comments. Hi, please get the fuck out, Lamau fucking carbrain. So this guy sees this guy having fun and is like, nah, bro. Public train can also do all that. Don't worry about it. People Shilling Industrial Society and Its Future by Dr. Theodore John Kaczynski. And finally, in case you're wondering if Reddit is all full of shit, I actually found one sub scrolling through the notes about this, and I really like the No Lawn subreddit. There are people who don't like grass, and they just re-turf their lawns to be like wild clover, wildflowers, local. They really focus on like things that are beneficial to insect communities and pollinators and stuff like that, and local varieties of all the plants and stuff that grow in their areas so that it preserves the environment. It's very cute, very nice. I'm a fan of this. If I ever have a lawn, I might take up some tips from No Lawns because that's pretty cool. And it doesn't intrude on how other people use their lawns. Go figure. All right, that's it. Thanks for watching. I hope you have enjoyed a little detour into FkCars. There are more subreddits I have planned to cover when I have time, and I think I might just have to start making more time for the Gumroad people. Thanks for staying subscribed. I really appreciate it. You guys make every single thing I do way more easy, and my life in general more tolerable. Thank you, and bye-bye.